Think about this, a £230 smartphone with 5G, 3 cameras, 6GB of RAM, a great CPU, a high refresh rate display and even a headphone jack. Does that sound almost impossible in this current market? Well, it's not. This is the Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite, and it might be one of the best value smartphones from all of 2020. And it's weird because aside from a few small areas that give this phone away as a budget device, you'd be struggling to find ways to think of this phone as anything less than a mid-range flagship. Let me show you what I mean by that right after I thank the sponsor of today's video, Passwarden. Passwarden is the all-in-one password manager that makes secure storage of your passwords easy. Under just a single subscription, you can store as many passwords as you need in an encrypted vault and access them across all of your devices with ease. Password storage has never been so easy as it is with Passwarden, and alongside the incredible encryption and security, they offer some great convenience features for your experience, and it's even available absolutely free. It's available for all of your favourite operating systems and browsers, and you can get complete coverage over all of your platforms while keeping your accounts as secure as possible. Check it out now at the link below to secure your online presence instantly. Xiaomi haven't left anything out of this design, and it shows. Sure, it might have a plastic frame, but the rear glass has some seriously nice reflections that make it seem a whole lot more like a full flagship than just a budget device. It might not be a slim device at 9mm thick, but the curves to the edges really help to polish off the feeling in the hand. And using it daily, I've had no problems with this device from a build standpoint. It's a big phone, like seriously big, and I can't even use it single-handed, which is something I can do with pretty much every other phone I've ever used. So keep that in mind if you have small hands. The side-mounted fingerprint scanner is okay, but it would have been a whole lot nicer to have a rear-mounted or even an under-display one instead. I find this button to be a little bit mushy and it doesn't feel great sometimes, particularly when my hands are cold. It's one of those things. I absolutely love the design of this phone, and it definitely looks a whole lot more premium than you'd expect for its price. Around the front, things are pretty awesome too. Although there is some slight asymmetry to the bezels, particularly around the chin, I can overlook that for the price. It's certainly not the world's best display, and it seems a little darker than I'd like at full brightness. The thing is, it's still going to be a pretty great experience as a display goes, partly down to that 120Hz refresh rate. Sure, it doesn't have any incredible colour accuracy or any class-leading HDR ratings, but I've honestly not really cared about that much. It's still pretty pleasing from a visual standpoint for everything I can use it for, from Netflix and YouTube viewing, to the writing of the script for this video and all the social media you can imagine. It's 2021 and somehow there's a headphone jack and expandable storage on this phone. If you'd have shown me this in 2019, I might have lost my mind and thought this is the best thing since the invention of the wheel. But the problem now is that we've all been forced into adopting wireless accessories, and I simply prefer the flexibility that wireless offers now, so as a result I probably won't be using this headphone jack ever. That being said, I am speaking subjectively here, and I'm sure there's people who will value having this connection on a brand new smartphone, particularly one at the lower end of the overall price range. The specs of this phone are actually pretty awesome for the price. With its Snapdragon 750G, a comparable CPU to the Pixel 5, which is almost 3 times the price, the performance is actually pretty decent in every use case I've thrown at it. It's able to play games like Fortnite at a respectable 30 frames per second on average, and even higher for less intensive games. Multitasking and uploading speeds are solid, and although they're not earth-shatteringly fast in any particular way, I haven't ever had any problems with the speed of this phone, especially considering the price to performance that it offers. On a daily basis, I'm able to get everything done that I could possibly want without any struggle. It's not the best for intense multitasking, and there are some moments that it'll hang or stutter a little, but those are only limited problems mixed with an otherwise great experience. I think it's fair to say that the performance of this phone is pretty damn good, and despite its occasional slips, for the money, it's hard to find fault with this experience. The cameras are actually pretty great on this phone too. So there's 4 cameras seated in the substantial camera bump on the back, covering every focal length from ultra-wide to telephoto. And to be fair to this phone, the images are impressive. With the main wide sensor, which also serves as the telephoto, there's some nice looking natural bokeh, which sells the big camera experience that you'd only really expect from decent software processing. There's a great level of sharpness in the center, and the dynamic range is also impressive. As for that ultra-wide, well, it's got a good handle on distortion, which is a massive benefit that even the iPhones can't get right sometimes. I never really find myself using ultra-wide cameras, but that's more down to personal preference. That also doesn't stop this phone from having some pretty decent image quality from that ultra-wide. The third camera is an ultra-macro lens, and much like the OnePlus Nord, it's only a 2-megapixel sensor that produces images I wouldn't ever want to use in real life. If you want to take macro photos, then use the telephoto mode. Not only will they look infinitely better in terms of image quality, but you won't be stuck with terrible barrel distortion or resolution that simply sucks. Although it might lack the total refinement of the Pixel camera experience, that doesn't mean that there are bad photos coming out of this phone at all. This camera setup has impressed me a lot, and I'd be more than happy using this as a run and gun camera on a daily basis. Say what you will about MIUI and its almost candy-like visuals, it has pretty quickly become one great operating system to use, and that applies here. Personally, I'm not a fan of the default launcher that MIUI comes with, so I've switched it to Launcher instead for more stock Android appearance, and it actually fits quite nicely with the rest of the system UI. Animations in MIUI are nice and refined, and they blend well between apps and the default UI, while not being too badly impacted by third-party launchers and other modifications. That 120Hz display definitely helps seal in the polish for these animations, and MIUI does a good job at keeping things smooth throughout. Gesture navigation isn't really MIUI's strongest suit, and I often find myself triggering Google Assistant when I'm trying to switch apps, but thankfully, as this screen is massive, I really don't mind using button navigation to keep things moving quickly. Other Android devices seem to do gesture navigation a whole lot better than this does, and that is a shame. There's not much in the way of customization for MIUI, and you're mostly limited to downloading predefined themes if you want to change the look and feel of this device. But you know what, that actually doesn't bother me at all. I find MIUI to be neutral enough that I don't really want to change anything about it. Scheduled dark mode is actually more than enough for me to keep this device looking fresh. What you've really got to consider here is the price. If you want the best software experience and the best hardware for a budget device, then something like the OnePlus Nord is going to really deliver all of that, closely followed by the Pixel 4a. But those phones are quite a bit more expensive than this, so the customization and the small bits of polish on the software are sacrifices that I'd be willing to make. It's weird because even though this phone was just released in October of last year, it's already been replaced by the Mi 11. But that doesn't stop this phone from being a seriously great value device. At this price point, there's not too many phones that can do everything just as well as this can. It's 2/3 of the price of a OnePlus Nord, and although it doesn't possess the same level of flagship feeling from its build and overall experience, it still outperforms in every category from what I would have expected at this price point. If this is the phone that you've been looking at buying, then you surely won't be disappointed. I've been amazed at just how much great value for money there is here, and not many phones can offer this much for so little money.